I admit I've had a hard time finding a way to vocalize this because there are just so many aspects and things I wanted to cover. I fell into the doubt hole and I felt I wasn't ready to write it because if I myself haven't mastered this, then what do I have to offer? I sometimes think that everything I'm doing is pointless, but then someone reminds me that it isn't. I feel stupid for doubting myself and have a good laugh. Me assuming that someone has to be a master in order to be able to teach is stopping me from potentially gaining some sort of value from every experience. We compartmentalize our lives too thoroughly. We assume, well, what do they know? It's like saying that you can't learn baseball from your dad because he's not an expert. Like, he's just a dabbler if he isn't signed to the Mets, so you couldn't possibly learn baseball from your father. That, of course, sounds ridiculous to me. We are all capable from learning from each other, even if it's a negative experience. We can transmute that into something valuable by accepting it and looking at it from another angle. Ultimately, I feel passionate about this, as if I were created to do this. I love to create and talk to people about these topics. Mysteries, people, histories. Every person is a mystery because a mystery is my story. I think that it's important for us to explore the mysteries because histories only tell a small part of the story of the world around us and ourselves. We are the world, and it grows with us. Our words have very specific meanings. Many everyday normal words are actually compound words, long words made up of smaller words. We cast spells like a net using these words. Each word has its own vibratory spectrum that attracts or repels complementary and contrasting energies. All words and word combinations have a magnetic field. I realize that this may sound out there for some people watching, but these breakdowns aren't just people grasping at straws, it's etymology. So you may be wondering, why try and look so deeply into mythology and common everyday words when the real outer world is so messed up? And that's because I think that self-perception has everything to do with our outer world. Mythology and human psychology go hand in hand, I suspect in more ways than just metaphorically. Now, to be fair, this is just my personal perspective on things, and I'm sharing because I feel that someone out there would like to hear this. It's my understanding that the world that we humans know has a lot to do with our perspective, if not everything. And I think little by little, if we can repair our inner selves, then our outer world will follow quickly behind. I went over in my Fairies Explained video how this world is electromagnetic in nature. From our daily interactions to our love lives, we use electromagnetic theme phrases to describe these feelings, or emotions, electronic motions. For instance, opposites attract, sparks flying when you're with someone, being turned on, and we call it misconduct when someone is treated unfairly, shock at something said unexpectedly, etc. You get it. It's apparent that our thoughts and emotions influence our electromagnetic fields, and these different frequencies create a variety of different effects, like a mandala or a ripple in still water. I'm sure many people watching are familiar with the concept of the law of attraction, astrological or elemental influences. You either are interested in this or, you think it's new age nonsense, and that's totally fine. I just wanted to dig deeper into these concepts and delve into the idea of true love for the self. The kind of love that we have for ourselves is the ultimate love. We must learn to be our own best friend, our own lover, our own parent, our own child, and our own enemy. Since we seem to be programmed to compartmentalize thoughts, I'm going to break down this idea into 5 roles. I will also relate these parts to the 5 elements. Number 1. The best friend. The best friend part of us is the aspect of us that is just the most fun to be around. It's the us that we hang out with when we're doing our passion, whether it's some sort of art, sports, music, or just chilling and relaxing. It's the us that echoes in our head during these states of mind, concentration, and meditation. In this way, they keep us grounded, and I like to relate this to the earth element. 2. The lover. The lover part of us is the part that motivates our desires. This is the part of us that reminds us of our own beauty and uniqueness. They are our naked and natural selves that understand the most intimate parts of our minds, bodies, and souls. We spend time making ourselves look good for the lover part of us. This is the part of us that lights our motivational forge. They drive us to be better people, and we want to impress them. Fire is the element I chose to attribute this aspect of ourselves. 3. The enemy. The enemy part of ourselves is one that I think people these days spend most of their time with. This is a complex and seemingly necessary part of us. this part can be a prankster, an unyielding teacher, a relentless bully, an abuser, a killer, and at its worst, a friend in disguise. This part exists to get in our way and to knock us down at the most inconvenient times. To me, this part exists to bring us down, to remind us to be grateful for the high times. Maybe it's necessary, or perhaps it's an enforcer of perspective. This attribute I see as the element of water, as it can drown us, pull us under, fill our lungs, and kill us, yet we choose to consume small amounts in order to quench our thirst. 4. The child. The child part of us must not be forgotten. In the modern day, we use the word child as an insult when we want to call somebody foolish or stupid. As a result, many of us have separated ourselves from the child mind in an attempt to come off as mature and intelligent. Yet, most of us still watch cartoons, play games, dress up, and collect toys. But is that what defines a child? Would a child still be a child without those things? Of course. Being a child is like the childlike state of wonder and curiosity at ourselves and our surroundings. In this state, we question everything and imagine freely. This part of ourselves is wild and free and lives in the moment. I think air is the appropriate element for this aspect, as air is what we need most immediately before water, food, shelter, or clothing. Being without air is the quickest way to death. Without our inner child, our spirits too quickly pass away. Number 5. The parent. The parent part of ourselves is just as important, and I attribute it to the 5th element, plasma, because it is the element of life-giving. Yet, this part of ourselves is another one that people struggle with. In the physical world, parents are just normal folks with kids. Unfortunately, many people didn't spend the time figuring themselves out before having children for one reason or another. And I understand that no parent is perfect, and mistakes are bound to happen. But there are many people, in my generation at least, whose parents didn't care for them how they needed to be cared for. They may provide food and shelter, but a large number of people with children don't maintain their relationship with their children or themselves. Much of the time, children are doomed to repeat the actions of their parents, becoming a near carbon copy. It takes a level of perception not taught in schools to be able to learn from the mistakes instead of repeat them. This has caused many of us to have to learn on our own how to take care of ourselves financially, emotionally, or spiritually. And this learning process can be difficult, especially with the distractions of the modern age. It seems like we beat ourselves up for simple mistakes, and then when we've done something really self-destructive, we congratulate ourselves. We don't know when to be stern or compassionate with ourselves. Imagine a parent like that. We turn our noses up at the idea of a parent who allows a child to drink booze and hang out with shitty people. Yet then we turn around and have a drink with that person who always gets us into trouble. Many of us don't even feel in control of ourselves or our lives. Life feels surreal, as if we're the passenger in the seat of a car that's going who knows where, maybe nowhere. As a young adult, I've certainly struggled with learning how to take care of myself, and I think that's the case for many people, young and old. I think that some of us have found ways to make ourselves content, but it's typically temporary and fleeting. Many of us young people gather in groups and feed off of one another's energy, which of course is fine in moderation. However, it's the constant stimulation of this groupthink energy that stunts the growth of the individual. So many of us stop being able to produce our own energy and can't even handle being alone for short periods of time, constantly updating on social media or looking for anyone to hang out with, even if we don't like them. This too is a drug, and just like a chemical drug, we become dependent on specific variables in order to maintain a state of being. So many of us have felt depressed and alone inside, and no amount of hanging out quells this thirst for understanding. We often blame other people for not understanding us, but it's we who are to blame. It's our responsibility to understand and love ourselves. This understanding acts as a safeguard to any misunderstandings that others may have about us. Of course, this doesn't mean that we won't feel pain when we detach from another person, but we will heal faster if we are at peace with ourselves. It's time we stop relying on others to be the light for us in the darkness of despair. Based on my daily interactions with people, it's apparent that many of us have resigned to this despair. Even if it's said with a humorous or ironic overtone, the message doesn't really change. It's very cool these days to be nihilistic. It makes us feel intelligent and austere. I'm not saying that this world is all flower fields and apple orchards right now, but it's not naive to have hope. Unfortunately, the typical solution to this emptiness is some kind of sensory pleasure overload. The obvious examples being drug abuse, partying, binge eating, constantly craving sexual stimulation, chain smoking, daily Netflix or gaming marathons, perpetually seeking validation on social media. Anything that we spend copious amounts of time on that doesn't help us or our world grow is, to me, a distraction. Now, those things aren't inherently evil. In fact, some time away from the untangling of wires of our confusing existence isn't bad in small doses. The problem is that we don't know how to control ourselves, or we don't want to. The majority of us were never taught at home or at school, so it would be something that we would have to learn on our own, and the obligation to learning ends after high school or university. Self-control isn't a subject in school, and most of our parents haven't even figured it out, or their parents, and so on. It's uncool in the modern day. Instant gratification, public self-deprecation, and the mindless self-indulgence seem to be topping the coolness charts lately. Many of us have fallen into these kinds of cycles. I'm no exception. Some days I just want to come home after a hard day at work and play Skyrim and eat chips, but I have to discipline myself to create because that's my purpose, or my pure pose. I love experiencing what other people have created, but I also made the conscious decision to be a creator, and I have to fulfill that in order to feel like my true self. I realize that for many people, their purpose doesn't reveal itself immediately. There is so much distraction in the modern world, most of us are too preoccupied to really look inside of ourselves and ask, what do I want and why? And what do I have to do to get that? However, I feel that this is something we all have a responsibility to. If we can't manage ourselves, our thoughts, our emotions, our actions, how do we expect to have the life that we dream of? Yeah, it's a little bit of tough love, not being mean to ourselves, but just being a little more strict. We have to channel that parent part of us. The vigilant parent will yell at a child and grab its arm too tightly and pull it away from the open road where it will surely get hurt or worse. Does the arm of the child hurt? Of course, but only for a little while, and they get to go on with their life instead of dying tragically. Now, the child knows not to run into the road, but the little tyke was in a hurry to get to the park, and from their low perspective, there were no cars on the road. Only the parent could see the truck from a further distance and pull them away with great force back onto the sidewalk. So, when we sense we are being self-destructive, we need to access that parent part of us, firm and strict, compassionate and unconditionally loving. No matter what, we must never stop loving ourselves, but we must be firm with ourselves when we are stupidly putting ourselves in danger. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't take risks. I think that it's just a matter of balance. It's up to us to learn when to act accordingly. We aren't always going to do the right thing, as we're not perfect, and the right thing can be pretty relative, but we do generally have a code of conduct. Each person has their own code and conduct in which they behave. To be have. So, is it possible that what we currently have going on in our lives is based on how we behave? This is simple cause and effect. This also has to do with the law of attraction, or the law of electromagnetism. We and the people around us are conductive, and our conducts affect one another. A lot of variables affect the individual's magnetic field. Our diet, our mindset, our hair, anything we can think of. It's up to us to control these things so we don't get swept away in other people's currents. Many of us are easily influenced by others in our lives and figures we see in the media. So many of us put our faith in politicians, movie stars, directors, musicians, actors, academics, YouTubers, social influencers, treating them like religious figures. We idolize them. We see these everyday heroes and think that it's somehow their job to fix everything because they have the power, not us. We put them on these pedestals and honor them more than we honor ourselves. This displacement of energy creates a massive disharmony in the world. We feel like we will never compare to our idols, and we lose faith in ourselves. Then it happens that this idol does something that we don't agree with. We lose faith in them, and eventually become irritated and upset, broken even. So many of us allow ourselves to be affected by the supposed events in the lives of people that we'll never ever meet. We are so invested in the lives of others, whether it be through the TV, school, YouTube, Instagram, we hardly know how to allow ourselves to even think for ourselves. This is of course a form of idol worship. It's the same with all religions, but at least the religions provide a riveting metaphorical story that can be converted into some kind of wisdom. We even do this in our relationships with our friends, family, lovers. We idolize people in our lives at times. We get upset when our parents make mistakes because we're under the impression that they are to be perfect. We get disappointed in our lovers for not meeting our expectations, just like we feel about politicians, entertainers, and so-called gods. However, there will come a time in most of our lives where we need to separate ourselves from habitually destructive people, when all mercy and patience has failed. Sometimes we must detach the self from a loved one who doesn't respond to our constructive conduct. It may be helpful to imagine the yin and yang wheel as a steering throttle. Then imagine that we are conductors of a metaphorical train that represents our life. When we come to a split in the tracks, the splits represent choices. The left track is the track of mercy and forgiveness, and we've gone this way the past 10 times we've gone this route. However, on this track, which seems so bright and scenic at first, there have been fallen rocks and debris on the track from frequent rain and rock slides nearly every time. This has caused us to stop, get out, and spend extra time getting this junk out of the way. However, the right track is the track of resignation. The truth is that we need to get to where we're going regardless of the perceived aesthetic of the journey. The track goes across the side of a steep mountain and supposedly takes longer because we have to be more careful. What we don't know is that the storm doesn't affect this track because of the steep cliffside. The only evidence of a storm is a beautiful waterfall that arcs over the sheer cliffside of the track. We don't have to go this way every time, of course, only when the storms don't relent. So, what am I really saying? I'm saying that collectively, we don't love ourselves. I mean, I read all the time the phrase, losing my faith in humanity. We're collective, and to state that you've lost your faith in humanity is just broadcasting that you've lost faith in yourself. None of us are without blame for the state of this world. The state of being won't change until we've individually decided to be better. Baby steps, but we have to be consistent. We must not only love ourselves, but be dedicated to the betterment of ourselves and our conduct. I know that it's big these days to think I don't have to be perfect, I love myself as who I am. And this is a great start. It's acceptance of your current state of being, but it doesn't have to end there. Many people think that this is the last step, but it's more like the first. I feel like the following steps are introspection, obligation, dedication, and understanding. Perfection is a dirty word in this day and age because our idea of perfection has been fetishized and warped into meaning unattainable or impossible in the minds of most. Thoroughly, perfect, make, or do. All it really means is doing you to the best of your ability. And ability doesn't have to be static either. It can be something that continually increases, but just takes extra effort, extra energy. Energy and effort that most of us choose to spend on mindless self-indulgences, myself included. We're taught that we're here in order to consume these products, and we're convinced that we need this because this world has been sold to us before we were even born. It was sold to our parents' parents, and so on. In order to change the world, we must control our conduct. This will be observed by people, and it will cause an effect on them, as it's also a magnetic force. This leads to a chain reaction, even if it's subtle at first. The way that heroes are portrayed in most books, movies, games, is that it's up to that one person to save the world. And this to me is both true and false. One person can change everything simply by changing someone else. Every person we come into contact has an effect on us to some degree. The more time spent with another person typically dictates how much we change one another, but even just one high energy experience for a short period of time can evoke great change in other people. If we react with kindness and understanding in place of indifference or irritation towards our friends, families, strangers, we can make a big difference. For myself, I just want to continue to follow my purpose, even on days when I'm exhausted from being in a world that I'm not completely comfortable with. The only way for me to change my situation is for me to follow that purpose, even when every obstacle is facing me. It's definitely the most challenging thing I've had to do, but I can't help but feel that it's worth it.
Let go of everything you think to be true. Relax the mind and ask the question, do I truly understand what this reality is?